So flipping properties can bring in a huge return on investment, but only if it's done correctly. So my name's Joseph. I've been in real estate since 2018. I started off as an actual real estate agent. I slowly made my way into flipping houses, and since I've started flipping, I have done millions of dollars of volume that successfully sold within only a week of time. And let me just tell you, this was not by luck. This was all a complete strategy, and I'm gonna break it down to you in this video. So the very first part that we're gonna talk about is educating yourself. Now I know for some, you probably think like, oh, well, I already know everything, and that will probably be your biggest downfall. I honestly think the key part of why I'm so successful at flipping is because I was a real estate agent before. Not only does that give me leverage to knowing what buyers want, I also know the market very, very well. There is not a city or a neighborhood that I'm not aware of that's either increasing in value or decreasing in value. Like, I know all the ins and outs when it comes to real estate. I know all the best neighborhoods, and I know about the average price point that each neighborhood will sell for. So for your case in specific, if you're not a real estate agent, you have no intention on becoming a real estate agent, you really need to partner with a very skilled real estate agent. And no, not every agent is produced the same. There are agents that work well with first-time home buyers. There are agents that work well with investors, because flipping a property is completely different from residential sales. You have to know what's going to give you the best return on investment. You have to take in consideration when you're looking at these properties how much it's going to cost you to flip it. And if you have an agent that's sending you pretty much just bad deals like some wholesalers love to do, then it's kind of a waste of your time. So you don't really have to take the time to explain to them what your goal is. Like, they should already essentially know, okay, this person's in it to make profit. It needs to be in the correct neighborhood, it needs to be in the correct school district, and the numbers just have to make sense. If you can bypass all that by finding an agent that already has experience, not only are you able to take advantage of their years of experience, but essentially you almost have a partner, which I highly recommend. So this moves me right into my next subject, which is building a reliable team. Now, this needs to be done before you start flipping. I feel like the biggest thing that really screws people over is they try to find the property, then they buy the property, and then they try to find contractors. That's not gonna work. So if you already know that you want to flip, before you even think about looking at a house, you need to not only find your agent, you also need to find your contractors that's gonna help you with the flip project, and find your inspectors. You really need to build your team out, but not only build your team out, to make sure that they're really gonna guide you in the correct direction. There are some contractors that are gonna try to cut corners. That's gonna end up costing you so much more in the future. And you also need to find inspectors that's gonna find problems for you. Now, not only is an inspector just good for just finding problems to know what you need to fix in the house, but also if you have a good agent that, once again, is specifically great with investors, that agent can leverage some of those repairs. Even though that most of the houses that you will be buying will be sold as is, you can still deduct some of those major repairs from the price point. A lot of people love to look at houses and they're like, oh, well, that house is overpriced. I don't know how flippers are making money. I have never met a flipper, well, at least a flipper that's professional and is actually profiting, that pays full price for a house. That's never gonna work. You're never gonna find a house on the market that is gonna be profitable if you just give them exactly what they want. And the last part of your team, if you're not paying cash for the house, which I hope you're not paying cash for the house, is finding a lender. Most people will recommend a hard money lender. You can do a conventional loan. Hard money lenders are gonna cost you more money. Now, assuming you're new, you're probably gonna go for a hard money loan, which is completely fine. Just know that they are gonna cost you more upfront at the beginning. Most hard money lenders would like to see for you to have at least 4 flips under your belt before they can consider you experienced. So those fees will drop over time, but you definitely want to make sure you have a lender that can fund your deal. I highly recommend, if you're newer, to probably just take the hard money loan route. That's probably the easiest way to go. It is going to cost you more at the beginning, but eventually your profit margins will only get better, because most of the time they charge you more upfront for the first 4 flips because they're taking on a lot of liability considering you are newer, but over time that will decrease. So step number 3 is very important, but somehow people still either skip over or they just do not do it correctly. This will be setting a clear budget and a clear goal. A lot of people think like, okay, well, you know, I estimate I'll spend $30,000 on the rehab, and then I'm gonna pay X amount in realtor fees or whatever the case may be, and that's it. That is not how I budget for my properties. I go line by line and I account for everything. I feel like the main reason why flippers are not profiting because there's so many smaller fees that they're really not considering at the beginning of the project. So this is pretty much how I break it down when I'm walking a house to see if I want to potentially purchase it or not. I'm going line by line on the material that I will need, meaning, you know, if we're gonna install granite, what type of countertop? Do we need cabinets? Are we replacing all the light fixtures? Are we painting the cabinets? Are we keeping the cabinets? What type of flooring are we thinking? What price per square foot is that gonna cost me? When I tell you line by line, I am not doing a general estimate and saying, oh, it's about $2 per square foot for the flip. No, I'm not doing that. I'm actually walking through the property and seeing exactly what I'm going to do to the property, and I'm gonna see exactly how much it's gonna cost me. That way there's a lot less room for surprises. And lastly, when you're setting a goal, stick with it. I see a lot of people where they get excited about flipping, so then end up taking on a property where the profit margins weren't that great to begin with, and then they have one minor issue, and because the profit margins were so tight, it basically eats up the majority of the profit. And basically, long story short, the flip was no longer worth it. If you have a clear goal, stick with it. Do not just bring it down just because there's not any inventory available. Because what usually happens is once you buy that property, within a week that you done purchased it, an amazing deal will come up, but because you have all your money locked into this property, you done missed out because you were impatient. So if you have a clear goal, stick with it. If the numbers don't make sense, please do not buy the property. So what makes a property a good idea to flip other than just the numbers? Mainly what you're looking for is the house in the really good school district, in the desirable neighborhood at a good price point. If you have those three things, you're good, you're golden. But once again, if you're working for a real estate agent, hopefully they already know to do this, is I like to calculate the average days on market for that neighborhood in specific. Not for the state, not for anywhere else, for that neighborhood in specific. So if there's high volume running for that neighborhood, let's just say the average days on market is a week, that shows me that, hey, if I flip this property, I do it correctly, I match what's already in the neighborhood, I'm probably gonna sell very quickly. But let's just say I go to another neighborhood and the average days on market is a month or 2 months, I'm probably not gonna touch it because that means that area is not very desirable considering that this other area only has an average days on market of a week. These are things that you need to pay attention to. Everyone loves to just focus on the numbers. Nothing's worse than flipping a property very nicely and then it just doesn't sell. And honestly, if you want the best profit margins, you really want an off-market deal. Now, I have purchased foreclosures, I have worked with banks, I've done all the things, but your best return on investment is going to be off-market deals, no doubt about it. Because usually banks have the tendency of overpricing properties. Most real estate agents that get the sold as is properties, they also overprice them because once again, they're not very experienced in the investor side, so they don't know how to take in consideration that, hey, if somebody's gonna come in, buy this property and flip it, they have to make a profit. Most of the time, the banks and the listing agents miss out on that huge middleman there. You either have to negotiate the deal down or find an off-market property where you're really able to beat everyone to the chase, because if that listing agent has already falsely guided them into overpricing the property, it's going to be a huge problem to try to get them to come down unless they've been on the market for way longer than usual. But most of the time, you're going to get your best deal if you can find an off-market deal. The next step is to plan for your renovations. Not only will this make your house sell for a lot faster, it will also help your house appraise. I think a lot of people underestimate that, yes, you can list the house at whatever you want to, you can list it at whatever you think it is, but where a lot of investors mess up is they don't take in consideration what their comps are selling for and what they can realistically get for the house, because they had either overdid it on the flip or they didn't really take this in consideration at the beginning. So let's just say you're in a neighborhood where it's very normal for the houses in that neighborhood that's already selling to have Formica countertops. You might want to stay with Formica countertops, and if you do upgrade to granite, just take in consideration that you might be overspending for that neighborhood. Meaning where a lot of people mess up is let's just say if the comps are selling for $239, but you think, well, okay, I'm gonna pick granite in the house, but guess what? I'm gonna sell it for $255. Your house still has to appraise. So if you kind of over renovated it, you're probably not going to get that money back because the banks are going to say, I don't care that you put granite in there. The average price point in this neighborhood is lower than that. So this is what we're willing to give you, even though you put granite in the house. This is where you either rely on your agent, or if you are the agent, you need to look at the houses in the neighborhood that's already selling and you need to match their energy. Meaning, if there's Formica in the neighborhood, stick with Formica. If there's granite in the neighborhood, stick with granite. Do not have a neighborhood that has granite and then you downgrade the Formica. That's gonna mess up your appraisal. So what I like to do when I'm looking to possibly purchase a house to flip is I'm already researching to see what has sold in the neighborhood, obviously, because that's gonna give you your price of what you should be offering anyways, but as well as what type of renovations am I doing to the property? Am I ripping out cabinets? And can I keep the cabinets? Can I keep the countertops, or do I need to replace the countertop? These are all things that you do not just assume. You actually have to do it based off research. Once again, creating a strategy, because this will guarantee you that you are doing the flip not only correctly, but this also kind of confirms if your house is going to appraise or not. So people love to overcomplicate this, but essentially all you're doing is copying and pasting what's already going on in the neighborhood. It's honestly just that simple. All you need is comps, see what the comps have, and just copy and mimic. It's really not that hard. My last tip for this subject is if you're not good at design, please either hire that out or find someone else that can do that for you, because your biggest downfall will be designing the flip, and even though you've matched everything in the neighborhood, you go in with mismatched stuff or stuff that just does not make any sense for the neighborhood. What I see a lot of times that flippers make a mistake at is where I live. We live in more of a country, rural area. A lot of flippers will come here and put overly modern light fixtures in, overly modern everything, and the house will just sit, and even though it's flipped and everything's brand new, the house is still not highly desirable, because once again, you have to match the area and what's already going on, and we're not in the area where modern houses are very sought after. So once again, take in consideration, if you do not have a design eye, you need to hire that out or find someone else that can do that for you. So going into the next step, which is staging, marketing, and cleaning. These three categories right here will give you a huge return on investment, because your goal is to sell your house as fast as possible. If your house is flipped but is sitting on the market, there's probably a reason as to why. So for starters, I do like to do light staging in every single house. So what is light staging? Light staging is when you kind of decorate the entryway. I love to do a rug or something in the entryway. I like to do light staging in the kitchen, which basically means dressing up the kitchen, adding in a little bit of color, and especially the bathrooms. The bathrooms need some type of staging. If not, it just looks very weird. I don't know how to explain it. And of course, you have marketing. Now, once again, you should be able to lean on your agent, but never just fully depend on your agent, because you really want to check them and see what they're doing. If your agent does not practice professional photography, you need to hire a different agent. Main reason being is because you gotta think, we live in the day and age of where everyone is using their phone to look at houses or their computer. A lot of people are not gonna waste their time to come look at your house if the photos are bad. If the house is not presented well online, what makes you think somebody's gonna waste their time showing your house? They're just not. There are so many other agents that are investing and paying for professional photography for their listings to properly advertise it. If you skip out on this, I can just about promise you your house would be skipped as well. Absolutely need to have professional photography. That is a non-negotiable. So lastly with marketing, another little thing that I do is I like to send mailers to the whole entire neighborhood upon the beginning of the flip process. Now the reason why I do this is because you would be surprised at how many people know other people that want to buy specifically in their neighborhood. I will literally mail the whole neighborhood, let them know, hey, this house is gonna be flipped, it's gonna be nicely renovated. If you know any buyers, please send them my way. And usually I get some type of response. I highly recommend, this is once again something that your agent should be doing for you if they're really working for their coin. But if not, then once again, you might want to check into other agents because they should be working for your listing. Ask your agent, what are they doing to market the property? Are they gonna do mailers? Are they gonna do online ads? What are they gonna do for that? Because they should not just be uploading your listing to the MLS. That listing should be broadcasted everywhere. Social media, mailers, the whole nine. I do this for every single listing and it pays off for me every single time. Next up is sell strategically. Now what I mean by this is you want to be very mindful when you're doing negotiations. Now I have to be very mindful because I'm also the agent representing the property, but if you have an agent representing you, do not allow a buyer to push you over. You really need to know the market and what you should and should not be doing. And if you're not doing it, your agent should be doing it. You need to be very careful because in some markets, yes, it's very normal to pay buyers closing costs. Yes, it's very normal to pay the buyer's agent, but in some markets, it's not. And I can't really speak for your market, but I highly recommend, once again, if you're not educated on the market, you should not be doing this by yourself. Do not skip out on paying a real estate agent because you think, oh, I can do it by myself and have a great product and I don't need an agent. The agent brings in the expertise. They should know what's happening in the market. They should know how offers are being structured right now. And they should also be able to gauge on what you should and should not be doing when it comes to repair requests, what closing costs you should be paying, and all the things, and what you should be receiving if you are receiving a due diligence fee or earnest money fee. All these things will protect you just in case they drop out of contract. And once again, if you are just a regular person that's never flipped houses before, you're not an agent, but you think you're gonna do all these negotiations on your own, you're gonna lose out on thousands of dollars. I can just about promise you, because the average person does not know how much money they should be receiving in due diligence or earnest money. And that money essentially protects your deal. Now, once you've done all this and hopefully you flipped the house to perfection, you've now sold it, what you wanna do is just go back and reevaluate what you could have done better. So maybe you go back to budgeting and you're like, oh wow, I really under budgeted for that kitchen remodel. Oh wow, I really should have not done that. The biggest thing that I see flippers do when they're reevaluating is they kind of overdid it. If you can paint cabinets, paint the cabinets. Stop trying to rip everything out. Stop trying to tear down walls. Because honestly, if you didn't add a lot of value to the house, or if you didn't really make the sellability of the house any better, but you just thought it would look better, you just essentially wasted money. Reevaluate, see what buyers love about the house. Ask your agent for feedback. What did they like? Did they like that you updated the cabinets? Did they like that you updated the appliances? What did they like and what did they not like? And some last minute tips if you are completely new at flipping and you've never done it. If you're gonna use credit cards, please make sure they're not attached to your personal name and you have an LLC and they have no interest. If you don't wanna apply for multiple cards, there is a credit card from American Express that I feel like people do not talk about enough, and it's called a Plum card. It gives you 2 months no interest, and it's not a 1 year thing or a 2 year thing. It's actually for the lifetime of the card, meaning every single purchase you have 2 months to pay it and they will charge you no interest. I think it's amazing if you're flipping houses. Best thing you can do is there's some credit cards that offer 12 to 18 months no interest, which is essentially a whole entire year. So literally you could flip a whole property, put a lot of your costs on that credit card and not pay any interest. It's a great way to just leverage other people's money. I can do a whole nother video on this. This is not the type of video for that. But once again, if you're using credit cards and you're paying interest on whatever you're using the credit card for, yeah, there are a lot of other ways that you can avoid that. So just be mindful, do your research, and hopefully you have an LLC so you're not attaching all this to your personal credit. But once again, that is a whole video in itself, and if you want that video, just comment down below. And if you like videos like this, advice, tips, and tricks, just subscribe and leave a like down below.